It's happening, folks. The romance between the media and Joe Biden is blossoming. These so-called journalists continue to hold the former vice president's hand. Check out the softballs they threw his way at a press conference just yesterday.
What do you see as the biggest threat to your transition right now, given President Trump's unprecedented attempt to obstruct and delay a smooth transfer of power?
You just spoke of some of the dangers of the president's continued stonewalling of this transition, but it doesn't appear that the president is going to come around anytime soon and admit defeat. So what are you going to do?
At the end of the day, do you want him to concede? Will you get vaccinated? And if you're hesitant, why should any American have confidence in the vaccine?
What is your message to people who are considering, for example, getting together with their families and others for Thanksgiving? Would you urge people to reconsider their plans?
I mean, the president is like totally a dangerous monster, and like we just are so glad that you're going to stop him from being so monstrous. Where are the questions about COVID-19 or stimulus relief for dying businesses? Or what about questions about the violence we saw over the weekend in D.C., where a bunch of loony Biden voters, because that's what they are, attacked Trump supporters? They were hunting them down and assaulting them, members of Antifa and BLM. Where are these hardcore, serious, oh so honest, neutral journos when we need them to push Biden to denounce this violence? Because they say, after all, he's already the president. They don't believe in this election not yet done stuff. That's a conspiracy. No, they'd rather ask about whether families should get together on Turkey Day, you know, the important stuff. If this is what it's like for the next 4 years, then we are in a lot of trouble, my friends. Joining me now to discuss this is Ned Ryun, founder and CEO of American Majority. Ned, if nothing else, and I know this election is not over, you and I are aligned on that one. There's still fights underway. We got to see how it all shakes out. But just looking forward for a moment, just as a mind exercise to the prospect of a Biden presidency, it will be something like what we saw with Obama, won't it? I mean, the press will all try to outdo each other with talking about how wonderful and brilliant the God King Biden really is.
Except it's going to be even harder to do because he's a fraction of the man that he used to be. You know, I think the thing that's sickening and nauseating, just even watching that clip, Buck, I mean, again, they've proven they're not really journalists. They're partisan operatives masquerading as reporters and journalists. And they're not even trying right now. I mean, they've really, truly, over the last 4 years, simply become propagandists for the left. It's been that way for a long time, but they've dropped the masquerade. But to watch this, it's disheartening, it's nauseating, but I think it's even dangerous. We can't have a free society without an honest and objective press, which we clearly don't have. And we're laughing about this right now, Buck. I mean, literally softball questions at Biden. But the whole point of an honest, a free and honest media is for there to be accountability and transparency. So what's going to happen when he starts to have negotiations, again, in theory, if Biden is to start to have negotiations with the Chinese, and I think he's clearly compromised on that issue, and the reporters aren't going to ask him the hard questions about what was being discussed, trade deals, some of the did this actually endanger national security? They're going to be asking, what was on the menu, and did you get to pet President Xi's pet dog? I mean, that's the level of the operatives these days. But it's dangerous for us as a people because the American people deserve to know, regardless of which party's in power, what's actually going on in D.C. And they're not getting that right now, and I don't expect they're going to be getting that anytime soon.
And Ned, there's something of a tragic irony that you and I both see in all this, because one of the biggest charges leveled against the president for 4 years now from his critics in the media is that he's a fascist, right? We keep hearing he's a fascist, or a dictator, or a combination of those two terms. They like to throw those together. And anyone who knows anything about geopolitics or history, both, will tell you that it's regimes where the entirety of the press are in their pocket that are the fascist regimes, that are the dictatorships. You know, Saddam didn't have 95% of the journos in his country all talking about how he was a traitor and actually worked with some foreign government to steal an election, right? I think what we're going to see here is the media showing us really what we should be concerned about, which is having the fourth estate here in the back pocket of somebody, in this case, Joe Biden. And that goes exactly to what you're saying, which is how can we have transparency? How can we know what the heck is going on when they're all vying for Biden's favorite little pat on the head of the month?
Yeah, no, that's right. But it gets even worse, Buck. I mean, we see this absurdity of whatever you want to call the media, because it's not really media, but it's really this confluence of the media, big tech, corporatism, all of these powers that are aligned against, I truly believe, the best interests of the American people. How are you actually supposed to, moving forward? And this is a real concern that I know we've discussed, but a lot of people are discussing. How are you supposed to have truth and accountability and transparency and free speech and free flow of information so you can actually get to the truth of what's going on when all of these powerful entities, and let's face it, as much as we don't want to admit, they're still very, very powerful, have all the ability to actually dictate the flow of information, what's being discussed, what's being talked about, what's being reported. I mean, we're looking at a really interesting time moving forward, and I think it's a shame. You know, I was watching these social media hearings today in Congress and thinking, this is kabuki theater.
Yeah.
You know, Republicans used to control both chambers of Congress, and, you know, they're having their moment in the sun, you know, ripping into Dorsey, ripping into Zuckerberg, and I'm thinking, nothing's going to happen. You guys had your moment to break apart these monopolies, do something on Section 230 reform, go after them to break apart their power. You did nothing. And now I think you've really put us in a very dangerous place with this tech oligarchy and the power that you know Biden is not going to address. They're going to be reinforcing a Biden administration. It's going to be hand in glove between Biden and the tech guys. And then you throw in the journalists. We're going to have a tough time ahead for the American people unless we can get back into power and actually cause real reform to take place.
And you bring up something very important here with the, as you put it, kabuki theater, the theater on Capitol Hill, and I think that's a very good way of putting it. We've seen how many of these hearings now. I mean, I'm somebody who works in politics for a living, as I know you do too, and my eyes glaze over now where it's, oh, here we go, another senator that wants to show that he or she even understands these issues in some meaningful way, and they give some big speech, and how dare you. We already know they're biased. We already know they've been caught. We know they tried to throw the election for Biden. They've suffered no consequences. And Ned, when we see who the Biden administration in waiting, right? They act like they've already won, so they're taking those steps. The Biden administration in waiting is putting in positions of power here. They're going to be hand in glove. I mean, they want to add to their near monopoly of national political journalism on the side of the Democrats to the continued monopoly they have from big tech. And that's very powerful. And that is the kind of stuff that delivers elections.
Oh, it is. I mean, obviously, Dr. Epstein talked about some of the things that tech could do. And again, I don't know when we're going to find out how many votes they are able to throw towards Biden and their manipulation of the flow of information. That all to say, only a fool doesn't realize what the tech oligarchy is doing and the failure of our elected leaders, who, by the way, are supposed to represent the interests of the American people, not the tech companies. But, you know, where people find their information on the internet, it's like the forum, the Agora. And now you've got these squatters on the internet, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Google, all of them deciding that they're the ones that make the rules. And our leaders have truly abdicated their role in advancing and protecting the interests of the American people. I think the thing that's even scarier, and again, not to go too far adrift from the topic, but if these tech companies really, truly are not broken up and continue to consolidate their power, they have a very different vision for this country than our founders did for the American Republic. And you talk about singularity and all these things that they're trying to advance. This is a very dangerous thing that I've been talking about and writing about for years. And shamefully, a lot of Republican officials, first of all, are deeply ignorant. They are truly ignorant on the issue of tech and what they're hoping to achieve. And then when you do have people that actually know what they're doing, it's, you know, God bless Ted Cruz and God bless Josh Hawley. But I don't really think anything's going to happen from this because they are going to lack the ability to make leadership do anything. And I think the other shame of it, too, is the DOJ antitrust division was clearly asleep at the wheel. You know, but I'm going to go in, Buck. I'm going to tell you this. Donald Trump is president until January 20th. There are a couple things that he can do to address and break apart the power of the tech companies. I'm going to hopefully go see him in December and say, sir, leave a mark. Let people know you were here no matter what happens with the elections. Break apart tech, leave a mark on them, because the American people, for the sake of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, free flow of information, deserve to have these guys broken up so they can actually experience freedom.
Amen to all that. Ned Ryun, everybody, founder of American Majority. Ned, great to see you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Buck.
Hey, Team Buck, just want to say thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more great content from The First, please click that subscribe button.